Married coworker kept hitting on me despite being rejected. So I reported her to HR and she got fired. Then her husband called me to verify my story because she lied about what happened. We work at the same office. She sits on the desk across from mine and is married as well as I'm. And recently, we've been talking more with each other, but nothing out of the ordinary. I have a good relationship with pretty much everyone here except for Carl. You, Carl, and your credit-stealing habits. Just cheap chat about regular stuff. How was the weekend? Look, this funny video. What do you think about this, that, etc.? Then she started texting, telling me that she is surprised about how easy it is to talk to me and how she enjoys how the conversation just flows, and I was cool. Me too, you're nice. Last week I left my car at the auto repair since the brakes started to make a funny noise, and since she lives 2 blocks away from where I live, I asked for a ride home. We are on traffic going home talking about regular stuff. Then she brings the subject again about how nice our conversations have been, and I agree. I have plenty female friends, so this is not uncommon for me. Then she starts talking about how interesting is that we have some different opinions about stuff, but we get along well anyways, and yeah, sure. This is when I noticed things got, weird. She then says she started looking at me differently and that she's attracted by me and put her hand on my tight. I thanked her and told she's nice and good looking. But we're just colleagues. We're both married. I respect her, but I'm not interested, so no way anything is going to happen. The rest of the ride was an awkward silence. When I got home, she kept texting me about how we're getting along so well and stuff, how she is not in the best moment in her marriage, etc. Then I received a lot of Instagram notifications of her mass liking my photos. I replied the text trying not to be rude, saying that maybe she should use her energy and time to resolve the problem she is having at home instead of this. At this point, I think she is crazy, and the best way to avoid any problems is to just dismiss the crazy yikiki she is saying and keep it cool and distant. Since we work together in a 55-people company, she says it's not just physical attraction and that she's jealous and can't stand see my wife's posts on Instagram with me. Red alert. And now she wants to meet me after work or during the lunch break out of the office to talk about things. I haven't told any of this to my wife yet, and I was not planning to do so since she is way too stressed out recently with her job and some problems with her parents. So, I'd like to know from the all-might and all-knowing Reddit how to avoid this crazy lady getting more crazy and try cause problems at work and with my marriage. Wives of Reddit, if you were my wife, would you like me to tell you what's happening? Or just deal with it? My plan so far is to let her know again that I'm not interested. Just play it cool and dismiss what she is saying, slowly decreasing the number of interaction we have until everything fades into a regular coworker stuff. Update. Sorry it took so long to update you. First of all, thanks for all the advice. Since it was the first time this happened to me in such a blunt way, I tried to handle it the best I could, but I was kind of lost about what to do. So, thanks again. Your advice really helped me. Following your advices, I got home yesterday, asked my wife to sit down and told her what was going on. I showed her all the messages and explained to her in details what happened. She was really concerned. Didn't get mad or anything. She was just worried that using her words, that would ruin your career and stress you out. So I told her I would talk to my boss in the HR next day. And so I did. I arrived earlier, scheduled the meeting with HR and my boss. He went pale when I told him I'd like to talk with him and HR together. Later, he said he thought I would quit. Ha ha ha. I sat down with them, asked them to be prepared for a Mexican soap opera, and then showed them all the messages and explained to them all that happened. I told them I'd like her to be moved to another desk and that I trusted them to discipline her so she would stop harassing me. They listened very quietly, nodding between the sentences and doing quick question when in doubt. After I finished telling my tale, they said they would call her in to talk and address the subject and that I could rest assured they would take all reasonable measures. I went back to my desk, got to work. I was going on a business trip to see your dad to Mexico following week, so I'm pretty busy. Then I heard the BSC phone, short for batshit crazy coworker, ring. She looked at me with suspicious on her eyes when she got up and went to talk to the HR. I tried to avoid eye contact and didn't express anything. 1 hour later, she comes back crying, get her purse leave. Everybody in the office was WTF just happened. My boss then called me into his office and told me what happened. They told her I told them what was going on. Then she made a whole dramatic, I too, show telling she was in love with me and was fighting for what she thought was right, etc., etc., etc. My boss and the HR person dismissed her silly arguments and told her she would need to keep things professional and move to another desk. Otherwise, they would have rescinded the work contract and she preferred to get fired. So, from now on, she no longer works with me. It has been 2 weeks, and so far, nothing related to the subject happened. So, I guess my life is back the way I like it. Just peace and quiet. So, thanks again for all advices. I think my thoughts were kind of clouded by this. You guys made me think clearly, so thanks. Edit 1. I know this subreddit only allow one update and I waited 15 days to post this, but this is important, so I guess an edit won't hurt anyone. Mods, please let me know if this is not cool. Just got a call from her husband. Apparently, she was crying all weekend and told him on Monday why she was fired. He told her didn't buy her version of the facts since they contradict herself in several points of her story. He told her call the company to clarify what happened and now was calling me just to make sure. I told him everything and offered to show him the messages. We are going to meet in an hour in a coffee next to the office. He sounded hurt but very clear-minded. Just told my boss, HR, and my wife that I'm going to meet him, and my boss offered to go with me. Man, I'm surrounded by good people. Edit 2. Just came back from the meeting with her husband. It was all very quickly. I arrived with my boss. He was waiting for me. I just showed him the messages in my phone, answered some questions about what happened, and that was it. He said he just wanted to be sure because she deleted all of her messages. He said this was not the first time something like that happened and apologized for everything. He said she was seeing a psychologist in the past, but she had stopped going recently. I just said I didn't want nothing to do with it, that I came to meet him just to make clear I didn't want any of this to happen. Wished him the best and left. He just nodded and apologized again as I left. I'm surprised with his reaction. Maybe he doesn't seem to be angry because they passed through something similar before. I don't know, and really don't care. I've just had enough drama and I'm glad this wasn't another one. So, let's hope this is the end. Thanks for your support and advice on this. Next story. Brother's Story 2. Stepmom lied about the school banning me from pickups due to my piercings. When I called the school, they confirmed she made it all up and the teacher never said that. I, 17F, have a half-brother, 8M. We share a mom, but have different dads. I don't see him often since he primarily stays with his dad, who I'll call Jeff. Jeff has been married to Amelia for a few years now, who has 3 kids prior to their relationship, and now she and Jeff have had 2 more kids together. None of their children are old enough to drive. Amelia doesn't like me because she sees me as an extension of my mother. They had a falling out since my moan dated Amelia's brother, who turned out to be abusive, and Amelia called my mom a liar, and I don't want to force a relationship with her, so I just leave it alone. I rarely see my brother outside of birthdays and have no relationship with his step-iblings. I live very close to my brother's school, and while I generally don't like kids or being around them, I've agreed to pick him up from school a handful of times when Amelia couldn't. Jeff's hours don't allow him to do so, and she's a SA. This all happened this past May. I'm fairly alternative. Dyed hair and multiple facial piercings, and I'm used to getting odd looks or questions from children, but I never had to get out of the car to pick my brother up, so this was never an issue. My brother was sick and needed to be taken home early, so Jeff called and asked me to pick him up, and I wasn't busy, so I agreed. This was the first time I've needed to actually enter the building, but I was on the approved pickup list, so I didn't have any issues. I went inside, got to the nurse, got my brother, and dropped him off back home with 0 problems until Amelia called me the next day. I was unaware she even had my number, so I declined her calls at first when she began to scream at me for getting her in trouble with the school. I asked what she meant as again I had no problems picking him up, and she started to berate me for scaring my brother's classmates. Apparently, one of the other children that had been in the nurse's office had been scared of me, as well as a few kids asking questions when I walked past open classrooms. I don't have any extreme body modifications, literally just hair and piercings. And the boy from the nurse cried to his teacher. Same class as my brother who notified Amelia and requested I no longer do pickups. I don't even think this is legal. Maybe not the right word, but I mean, I should be able to make a complaint about her requesting this since it's based on physical appearance, seeing as I was caused no disruption, and the only people I even saw were the secretary, front as admin, the nurse, and the kids in the nurse's office. Either way, Amelia told the teacher that was not an option, but she would tell me to take out my piercings next time I was at the school. I feel like multiple empty holes in my face would be scarier than the piercings, but that's neither here nor there, so whatever. I told Amelia I would not be taking out my piercings every single time I picked him up, and that usually I don't even go inside the building or see anyone for this to be a problem. I don't pick him up often, but I have quite a few piercings. It takes me around an hour, sometimes longer, to take them all out, clean them, and put them all back in. Those little balls are obnoxious to screw back in with long nails and shaky hands. While I wouldn't be cleaning them every time I picked him up, it is a long and tedious process that I don't like to do more than necessary. She told me it wasn't a big ask, and while I agree it mostly isn't, I feel more disrespected than anything because I think that's a fairly unprofessional way for the teacher to behave. Amelia told me the teacher had every right to protect her students and that either way, I shouldn't be punishing her because she wasn't the one asking. I was even more offended by this because I'm not a threat or danger. I literally am just alternative. I just realized I didn't mention this before, but my outfit was also entirely appropriate. It was plain black sweatpants and a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt. Amelia said this was the reason she didn't allow me to be around her kids. I've never asked to be around them since I don't like kids. And I said if she has an issue with me, she can lose my number and find someone else to pick my brother up when she can't. She continued to scream at me and tell me I was just like my mom, which was when I finally hung up and blocked her. I've seen my brother maybe twice since then, since I primarily communicate with him through Jeff. We play Roblox together, but he doesn't have a phone or social media who told me he was disappointed. And I told him he has no authority over me, so I didn't really care what he had to say. And the issue hasn't been discussed since then until today. My brother starts school next week and Jeff called me and told me Amelia requested I start picking my brother up again. I said no and reminded him of what happened last time, and he began to get very aggressive, saying that they weren't asking for much. I told him it was no longer about the request and it was how his wife spoke to me and said I wouldn't do them any favors of any kind. He began to guilt-trip me and ask how my brother would feel knowing his sister can't stand to be around him and threatened to not let me come to my brother's birthday in a few weeks. I told Jeff I don't care about not attending my brother's birthday since I don't even like kids and I would just see my brother another time, and he told me he wouldn't let me be around my brother until I apologized to his wife and agreed to pick my brother up from school again. I told him I would only agree to pick my brother up with an apology from Amelia and hung up. This puts me in a kind of difficult position because I could just see my brother when he has visitation with our mom, but we aren't on speaking terms right now. So I would have to break our temporary no contact in order to do this. I live with my dad and his mother and see my mom 2x a month max. My dad and grandma say I should just suck it up and apologize to Amelia. They don't have a good relationship with my mom, and she hasn't been allowed to step foot in the house since I was 12, but I really don't want to do this. Me and my brother aren't particularly close, but we have a good relationship and I don't want to jeopardize it because of an issue I have with his stepmom since I know he enjoys spending time with me because I'm his only sister. All of Amelia and Jeff's kids are boys, so I don't want to hurt him over this. Ida, for refusing to pick my brother up from school until his stepmom apologizes. Edit. A few of the replies seemed kind of confused since the post is so long it can get hard to understand. But to clarify, I'm a girl and I have zero relation to Jeff or Amelia. Me and my brother share a mother and stay with our respective fathers, his being Jeff. Amelia is Jeff's wife, my brother's stepmom. I do not live with Amelia and Jeff. I've decided to take advice from a few comments and call the school and ask if there is a policy stating I cannot pick my brother up with facial piercings, And I will likely either agree to disagree with Amelia depending on how the call with the school goes, plus her reaction to the call, or resume contact with my mom to see my brother during visitation. Thank you for the advice and support. Comments where Op has replied. Comment 1, Inta. Manipulation and entitlement abounds with Amelia. Stick to your guns. Amelia obviously needs you to pick up your brother, but has absolutely no intention of apologizing. Have you rung the school and asked if what Amelia has said is actually true? There's a lot of alternative out there. The reactions described seem over the top to me. Side glances and openly gawking. Yes, freaking out and running screaming to the teacher. Are you sure that Amelia isn't lying? Or at minimum, stretching the truth by dramatizing the hell out of it? Oop, I never thought about calling the school. Amelia never really gave me a reason to think she was lying, but I think that's because we have such little interaction anyways. I also thought the reaction sounded dramatic, but I have had a child genuinely start crying at the sight of me once, albeit I was in full Ugolo makeup that time. Comment 2, call the school. She's lying. They don't discriminate anymore. Most teachers now have piercings and tattoos. She's starting crap for her own ego. Refuse to help at all without a written apology on social media. Also, post her messages and sit back and let dad take the fallout from everyone telling him to check his wife. Oop, do you think the school would be able to do anything since this was so long ago? I'm starting to think I should call when the year starts, but I'm not sure if there's even any point to do so. Comment 3. It's not about the school doing anything. It's about you knowing the truth. I would bet money that Amelia lied and stretched the truth. I absolutely cannot imagine it went down exactly as you described. Oop, true. I just don't know how the school would even verify this. Like, would they need to check security footage? If they ask the teacher or nurse outright, they can say they don't remember, or that they didn't say that even if they did. I just feel bad bothering the school or think it would be a waste of time since this is a personal family issue. Comment for info. How many piercings do you have? Especially because you say you're alternative, the modifications might not be extreme, but numerous. Oop, I have snake bites. A vertical eyebrow and a horizontal on different sides. 2 nostril piercings on the same side. My septum, smiley tongue, angel bites, dollus, anti-eyebrow on both sides, and my bridge pierce. So quite a few. However, it is a public school, not private or Catholic, and I'm not a student, so I don't see how I could be banned for this comment. 5. Info. You didn't elaborate on your issues with your mom, but is it possible for you to say, hey, I'm currently not on good terms with Jeff and Amelia, so they aren't letting me see or speak to my brother. Would it be possible for me to come see him during your custody time? Oop. The no contact with my mom is from my end, so I could reach out. But she is on thin ice with Jeff and Amelia in terms of legal custody, so I'm not sure how willing she would be to go against him and let me physically see him. I am still able to communicate with my brother online and could likely text him when he was with my mom, but he is on the spectrum, and I'm not entirely sure he'd understand why I'm unable to see him right now. Update. Sorry about the late update. I got busy with school since my first semester is all app classes. I did what many of you said and emailed the school to ask if there was any policy stating I couldn't do pick up e rope off B on campus due to piercings. And like most of you said, they said no. I explained to them why I was asking, and they said they would ask the teacher about the incident, but told me there was nothing they could do if Amelia took me off of the pickup list. So I thanked them and gave them my number and requested they call me once they're done investigating the incident with the teacher. The next day, the school called me to let me know the teacher confirmed there was a staring issue and a few questions from my brother's classmates. Forgot to mention I stood in the doorway and waited for him to collect his things after checking him out of the nurse's office, but that was all, and that she did not say anything of the sort to Amelia. I decided to call Jeff and let him know about my conversation with the school and reiterated I would only continue to pick up my brother with an apology from his wife, or at least some kind of acknowledgement that she had lied to me. He told me he would have Amelia call me, so I unblocked her and waited. She did call to apologize, but it was very reluctant and dropped the bombshell that she is pregnant again and used that as an excuse. I decided to just let it go because I don't want to damage my relationship with my brother, and it just wasn't worth it until today when I picked my brother up and he asked why I have so much metal in my face. He's never said anything before about the piercings unless I've gotten a new one. So, I asked what caused him to bring it up again. A lot of you were correct. One of Amelia's older sons had asked to get his ears pierced and she attributed it to me. Even though I never see my brother's step, bros, she'd been complaining about it often around my brother. I guess trying to bait him into saying my piercings bothered or scared him too. I asked him if they did scare him and he said no, and he doesn't really think about them. But Amelia constantly said things like, "I just don't understand why she does that to herself. She's so pretty without the metal crowding her face, etc." I'm not sure how relevant this is, but her and my mom were close friends before their falling out, and Amelia has a son about a year and a half younger than me, not the one asking to get his ears pierced, and often joked about setting us up before I started leaning more alternative. So I think that's where the "she's so pretty" comments come from. I was frustrated but didn't want to upset my brother, so I just decided to change the subject. And instead of dropping my brother off and immediately leaving, I told Amelia I wanted to come inside and speak to her. She told me it wasn't a good time and I insisted it was. So she came outside and we talked on the porch. I told her again that if my piercings were an issue, she could find someone else to pick my brother up, but I would appreciate if she stopped constantly complaining about them to the rest of her family. She told me it was none of my concern what she said in the privacy of her own home, and I said it was my concern when she was actively trying to bait my half-brother into speaking negatively about me. She again told me she could say whatever she wanted in her own house, and I was just too tired to argue. So I told her if my brother came to me again to tell me she'd been complaining about me, I would stop picking him up and just see him during my mom's visitations with him. She was very huffy but agreed and went back inside, slamming the door in my face. This should be the last update. I'm just going to tolerate Amelia in order to maintain contact with my brother because I don't care about her antics and I have enough other things going on. I'll continue only communicating with Amelia and Jeff when necessary, and hopefully nothing else will come out of this. Thanks for the support, y'all.